Strikes, and more strikes. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have to find out more. Nurses are walking off the job as part of a massive public sector strike this week. A 2-day walkout coming Wednesday and Thursday by the union representing 80,000 nurses, auxiliary nurses, respiratory therapists, and other health professionals. They're mad. And what the Premier said last week, well, it just made things worse. Natalie Stake-Doucet is a former president of the Quebec Nurses Association and an assistant professor of nursing at the Université de Montréal. And she joins us now. Nice to talk to you again, Natalie.
Thanks for having me.
So I said, I'm sorry, and I just feel like I want you to know I fully support the teachers. I fully support the nurses. I support all the public sector workers in this strike. When I say sorry, I just mean I feel like we're all having to deal with the repercussions of it on one level or another, just to make that clear. So last week, let's talk specifically about what Premier Legault said, which made things worse. He told nurses not to take Quebec patients hostage in their labor disputes. So I think I know how you feel about it, but I'll just ask your reaction to that, Natalie.
I mean, it's so profoundly insulting. Nurses, have been the backbone of the healthcare system for decades and have been holding up the healthcare system despite cutbacks by government after government, including this one. And so for him to imply that we somehow, are holding people hostage when we're we're the last resort for the healthcare system is just profoundly insulting. What
do we know about how this, I mean, I know for the teachers, we know that it was until 11 o'clock today, and then there's additional strikes coming the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. What do we know, Natalie, about how this is going to roll out? So Wednesday and Thursday, I know there's some things that are considered to be essential services. How is this going to go?
Yeah, so of course, essential services maintain. There's it's going to be mostly picket lines in front of hospitals. There might be somewhat of a slowdown, but it'll be disruptive as far as I know. Anyway, I don't work for the union. I'm a professional. It's really meant to attract attention to our plea right now more than anything.
Do you feel like you have the public support behind you? Like, I feel like, again, with words like that the Premier used in terms of, accusing nurses of holding the public hostage, he's trying to sway public opinion. But my gut feeling is that most people really think nurses deserve better.
I mean, I hope so. It's hard, obviously, to speak for the whole Quebec population, but from what I was able to see just today on the picket lines of our colleagues who are social workers and physiotherapists in front of hospitals, I spend most of the morning in front of the Verdun Hospital, there was a lot of support from people just walking by or in their cars. So that's very uplifting, and it makes, we're doing this for patients. We're desperately trying to protect what's left of the public healthcare system that, so many governments have seemed so hell-bent on undermining. And so, the strike is always the last resort, but that's where we're at. We've been pushed into a corner, and that's what's left in front of us, despite, the attempts at negotiating, but also, over the years, nursing association groups, researchers like myself, we've been proposing, realizable, cheap solutions, for the short term, mid and long term, for support for nurses in the healthcare system. And it seems, we're always met with a deaf ear.
Yeah, there just seems to be a total and complete lack of vision. Like, I know obviously money's an issue. The working conditions are an issue, in particular the forced overtime. But then in terms of thinking long term, Natalie, there's a fundamental problem with, the tests right now we know are an issue. But beyond that people who actually go through all the trouble and effort of becoming a nurse don't end up staying in the profession. How do we begin to fix and address those kinds of things?
Absolutely. And it's frustrating because in any other job, if you would see so many people leaving in massive numbers, you would ask yourself, why are people leaving? And that seems to be a question that is not being asked by the current government or the government prior to this one either. And so it's frustrating because, they talk about a shortage of nurses, but we've never had so many nurses in the province of Quebec in our history. And so what we're really having a shortage of is decent working conditions that nurses are willing to work within. And so when you see people just leave, quitting their jobs massively because they can't take it anymore, you have to ask yourselves, what are we doing in the public healthcare system that is pushing nurses out so quickly, especially new nurses? We lose like almost half of our nurses within the first few years of practice. So how do we retain? And employee retention and attractivity is not a foreign concept to this government. It's something that's they're basic concepts in management, public management, private management. There are ways to retain, value, and attract nurses into the public healthcare system. It's just not being done. And so political will is what's lacking more than nurses.
And I'm thinking about those numbers too. So 44 out of every 100 nurses leave the profession before turning 35. And the thing is, we're talking about, I mean, it's a calling. I feel like it's really, truly, I have so many nurses in my family, and it's genuinely, they feel compelled to do. And I think you could say the same thing for teaching. And then I'd love for you to comment on the idea here that I know there's lots of men working in the public sector, so I don't want to diminish that, but it's nonetheless a predominantly female sector, right? Nurses and teachers. And does it come into play at all how we value the work that women do or the roles?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And nursing is probably one of the most gendered professions there is. It's about 90% women. And so, when you look at this government who's already, Premier Legault already mentioned, before that girls aren't as interested as in salaries as boys and things like that, and just sort of casual sexist comments that really sort of undermine what we're doing, which is, yes, I understand why you say it's a calling, but it's also a profession. We're not sisters or nuns anymore, and we have families, we have needs, we have to eat and sleep and have a home, and we have to be able to function as human beings outside of our work, and we're constantly guilted into working more at the great cost to our physical and mental health, which eventually that cost is pushed onto the healthcare system, because when we're not healthy in our mind and in our bodies, it's very difficult to provide proper care. And so a lot of us, if they don't quit their job in the healthcare system, a lot of them end up on sick leave for weeks, months, sometimes years. And so we have to address the central issues that make our healthcare system see us as a cost rather than an investment. The healthcare system needs us, cannot run without nurses. And so what do we do to ensure that the nurses that are there feel valued and can project themselves in the future, can see a long-term career within the public healthcare system, which is more and more difficult. Ask any nurse right now. Nobody wants to work in the hospital the way they are run now until they're 65 years old, until their retirement. It's just already, when you're untenable. 30, 40, it's absolutely exhausting.
You
never know when you're going to get home. It's not tenable. It's not a sustainable way to run a public healthcare system. All we're asking is for sustainability, and it's hard to even get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fair, Natalie, and I just want to say I do also appreciate you calling that out about. I see it as a calling, and what I meant by that is that you're not doing it for the glamour or the pay, right?
Yes,
but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be paid appropriately. Obviously, there's so much more to talk about, but we'll have to leave it there this time. We'll speak again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
It's a pleasure. That is Natalie Stake-Doucet. She's former president of the Quebec Nurses Association and assistant professor of nursing at the Université de Montréal.